It is Monday, April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and this is Admissions Live. I'm your host, Adam Castro, and we are just 8 days away from May 1st, better known as College Decision Day in America. On today's live broadcast, I'm joined by Eric Waldo, Executive Director of Michelle Obama's Reach Higher initiative, to talk about college access, the momentum behind College Signing Day, and introduce Civic Nation to the Higher Ed Live audience. Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network. Our episodes offer you the direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Be part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. Participate in today's discussion by tweeting us using hashtag HigherEdLive. All of our episodes are free and easy to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com, or take Higher Ed Live with you on the go by subscribing to the podcast. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. We know you've wondered what prospective teens are thinking when they receive and read or ignore your institution's recruitment marketing. In partnership with NRCCUA, the myth-busting enrollment market research uncovers the best marketing channels and communication preferences that have had the biggest influence on prospective teens' perception of your institution. The white paper is available on demand for on-demand download. Get your copy today and identify what encourages prospective teens to apply to your institution. We're going to tweet out a link to that shortly. Well, I'm very excited to have my guest on today for a second time. We met on Higher Ed Live around this time last year to talk about College Signing Day, and I'm more than happy to welcome back Eric Waldo. Eric, thanks for joining us today.
Adam, thank you for having me on. Hey, Higher Ed Live team. Really excited to be on with all of you.
Awesome. So let's jump right into it. I want this certainly be a standalone episode, so why don't we start with just a little bit of your background. You know, what brought you to this point, and what made college access and kind of really just public awareness about college access kind of your career goal?
Well, you know, number one is I think I always like to tell folks I've been really fortunate, right? I had parents who went to college who encouraged me in my education. Getting a chance to pursue my own education has made a huge difference in my own life. So I think I felt a real obligation to want to give that back. But really, I spent, you know, actually was working for the first 5 years of the Obama administration as the deputy chief of staff for Arne Duncan. And I was in charge of everything from cradle to career, all the work we were doing. And when President Obama took office in 2009, his first speech around education, he set out the North Star goal that a generation ago, the United States led the world in terms of the proportion of young people with a college degree. And now at the time when he gave that speech, we were at 16th among industrialized nations. Now or about 13. So he said, we gotta do better in terms of how we're making it possible for young people to get that education so that we can lead the world again and help drive the economy, drive folks into the middle class, et cetera. And then for the last 3 years of the administration, I ended up joining Mrs. Obama's team at the White House, and we launched Reach Higher there. And really, you know, Mrs. Obama herself is a first-generation college graduate, and the goal became, how can we use her platform and voice to encourage more young people to take the steps that they need to get to and through? So getting into that space between K-12 and higher ed has just been a pure joy. I love getting to meet students and counselors, parents, adults, everyone who's fighting so hard to make sure that more young people can access a post-secondary education. So it's been a joy to start in that world and continue into it today.
And I see that you're rocking the brown sweatshirt, so you're representing.
That's right.
So you're going to be wearing that for the next 9 days, I hope, and leading up to College Signing Day.
That's exactly right. And people are like, why are you wearing your t-shirt to work, Eric? I'm like, nope, it's got to show the brown love, because for College Signing Day, you know, one of the things we learned really quickly when we launched Signing Day with Mrs. Obama in 2014, we went to a College Signing Day in San Antonio, Texas. And what we discovered is in the celebration of College Signing Day, that entire community on May 1st, when they're celebrating Signing Day, they all put on their college gear, not just the high school seniors, but all the adults in the community, whether it's where they went to college, it's where their neighbor went to college, their nephew, their niece, their neighbor, you name it. And the idea here is like building college-going culture so people can be really excited and celebrate the fact that they're going to college. And Mrs. Obama said that we should be celebrating going to the Super Bowl. And I think to build that culture, we want people to show their pride and then also to post online. Post that selfie, hashtag College Signing Day, hashtag Better Make Room, because we want the trending conversation in America to be about young people going to college or what college did to help more young people and adults get to where they are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit about your position as executive director of Reach Higher. What is your day like? I mean, what are your responsibilities with the organization?
Yeah, so Reach Higher now, we now transitioned from the administration and now exists as a 501c3 nonprofit. We live at an umbrella nonprofit that's called Civic Nation, which hosts some different social justice campaigns, and I know we can talk more about that shortly. But I have about a team of 6 people who I help manage, and we try to galvanize people around the country around issues with respect to college access and completion. So we are trying to make sure that on the digital front, we're motivating and reaching out to millions of people around the country. We're trying to organize and build this college-going culture movement. So we're hosting events like professional development summits for school counselors around the country. We're also trying to use some high-tech, high-touch tools to help galvanize the community. So we text with about 100,000 students in all 50 states. Free texting platform called Up Next, which is run out through our Better Make Room campaign. And actually, we just received some money from the Mellon Foundation, and hopefully we're going to be adding about 300,000 more students to that profile, because when students get these texts, these nudges about filling out FAFSA forms, applying to college, getting the answers they need to get to college when they're transitioning between the summer, we know this makes a huge difference in the lives of young people and helps them actually make those key choices and make the right choices and actually get a degree, which is our goal. So, managing a team of 6, we're trying to build a movement from here in Washington, D.C. on digital, in person. And also, as any nonprofit, now I've got to go out there and work with foundations, work with people who are invested in this space, raise the money we need to keep this operation going and really build our evidence-based practices and help go to scale. So I really think of us as a movement building team, a team that's focused on some key evidence-based practices that we want to scale around the country. And we uniquely sit at a space because someone like Mrs. Obama is still our board chair, that we can try to convene leaders around the country and help move them in a direction so that going to college, getting a post-secondary degree, whether a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, a community college, a certificate or credential, that should be the goal for every young person. And so, we're measuring how we're doing on trying to build that culture around the country.
I'm so glad that you found out that college-bound students only respond to texts. I mean, we've learned this on our side over the last couple of years, but yes, text has certainly supplanted email in terms of getting a response from students. That's fantastic. And, it's amazing that you're going to expand. And I guess, now that it's moved out of the office a bit and you kind of, working on your own, that all the fundraising and different things come into play that maybe you weren't doing before. So let's talk about that. I mean, since you've seen kind of all the way through since Reach Higher began a few years back. So how do you define success, and do you think this initiative has been successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, frankly, something that we try to ask ourselves every day is, how are we measuring success and how can we hold ourselves accountable, both internally and also to our sponsors, our board, and the people who are invested in us. And I'd say a couple of things. Number one is, I think as a team, we do think uniquely we have a few key stats around movement building. So I talked about trying to build and change culture, and that is one of the things that when we started was our goal. How are we celebrating going to college, creating that culture, and then how do we measure that? So for us, as I mentioned, we realized that we needed a digital campaign that was going to uniquely reach young people where they are, which is why we launched the Better Make Room campaign out of Reach Higher. I always say Reach Higher is the brand, Better Make Room is the campaign, sort of like Nike and Just Do It. And one of the things that we do measure is how we're doing on engaging young people online. And so since we launched Better Make Room, we've actually had almost 3 billion hashtag impressions. And for events like College Signing Day, it started, when we began in 2014, we had a couple dozen signing days around the country. And each year we've increased that dramatically. And in fact, this year we're on pace to hit about 2,000 events in all 50 states, impacting over 700,000 students. So that's something where we know we're breaking through. We know we're impacting students. And I think if you think about what we're doing, last year we actually tripled our social media engagement. We had about 1.15 billion hashtag impressions in 24 hours alone for hashtag College Signing Day and hashtag Better Make Room. So one of our goals is to say that we know when you're dealing with young people and Generation Z and how often they're on their mobile device, we're competing with a lot of other campaigns out there. People are marketing to our young people around fashion, around music, around sports, around entertainment. And education, if we want to make sure that young people are taking their education seriously, we need to be marketing to them around the importance of education. So I'm really pleased with the fact that we're seeing a breakthrough on these moments and trending #1 and getting this level of impressions. And we know that over 700,000 students last year signed up, or 600,000 last year, and we're on pace to hit over 700,000 this year. So on that level of culture building, I feel like we are trying to use digital tools to measure our success. On other tools like how we engage with the school counseling community, I think that's where we're trying to really figure out how to better prepare and train the school counseling community. This past year in 2017, we hosted 3 summits to help train hundreds of school counselors. And again, right now we know that every school counselor has on average about 500 students who they're supporting. So we know that we're able to support thousands of more students because of the work we do to train the country. So we to be successful. Lastly, I do think we are trying to figure out, and we do measure, what are we trying to do to get evidence-based practices to scale? And for us, that's really important about not just measuring, but then thinking about scaling. So I mentioned the texting campaign. So in our beta year, we had about 100,000 students we were texting with in all 50 states. And what we discovered in our research was actually our engagement rate, students responding to us, asking us questions, having a back and forth about FAFSA or about any issue, was about double the engagement rate that you'd have for a typical large-scale texting campaign. We were actually getting students to respond over 50, close to 60% of the time. So that means a student is actually responding to someone and saying, you ask, hey, have you filled out your FAFSA yet? Student says, yes, no. Well, do you know that your state deadline is X? You're having actually a real dialogue. So we're actually getting about twice the engagement rate, double of what you would see typically in texting campaigns around the country. So we're feeling good. And then in terms of getting to scale, we're pleased that now we're going to take this platform that we know changes outcomes for students by on the order of 10, 11, 12, 13% increases in FAFSA completion, in sophomore persistence, in decreasing summer melt. And we're taking that platform, and now we're going to actually add 200,000 more students to that, we're going to get to take advantage of that toolkit. So we're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of students who are going to have better outcomes, are going to get a college degree, are going to be able to access financial aid because of the work that we're doing. So we're pleased. We're not satisfied. We know that, unfortunately, the stats are still rough, right? If you are a low-income first-generation student, you grew up in the bottom income quartile, you got about a 9% 6-year college graduation rate. That's compared to about 55% for folks in the upper income quartile. So we got to do a lot better. We got to make sure that your zip code and your income isn't your destiny. And until we really erase that gap, I'm not going to feel like we can rest on our laurels.
So you touched on a lot of important stuff there. So I want to focus in on the involvement aspect and how a school counselor, for instance, that's not having a college signing day event currently, start planning for next year. And then, alongside of that, if I'm a student, if I'm a 17-year-old student in high school and I have not engaged or I'm not taking advantage of these tools, how do I go about kind of opting in to these different types of communication that you've talked about?
Yep. So that's a great question. The first thing I would tell you, if you're a counselor, first of all, we're so thankful for your service and the work you're doing. I would say counselors are sort of these dream whisperers. They really see the potential in every young person and help make that come true. And if you're a counselor and you want to put on a signing day, just go to bettermakeroom.org, click on signing day, and you can actually download a full toolkit. We have examples, whether you're an elementary school counselor, a middle school counselor, a high school counselor. We have examples of what you could put on. And again, it doesn't have to be a 7,000 person rally like Mrs. Obama is doing. It can be, a pizza party, a dress down day for your students. It can be something pretty simple. We also have partnered with the College Football Playoff Foundation for the past 2 years, and we give out about $100,000 in microgrants of about $500 to counselors to host these events around the country. So you can learn more how to do that and think about that as a budget for next year. And again, there's still fun ways to participate this year. We know that while May 2nd is the day Mrs. Obama will celebrate, we know that signing days happen anywhere from the end of April to the beginning of June, just based on school counseling and school scheduling. So you can do it any way you want. And you really think of your entire year, so you can think about what to offer at your FAFSA event, what to offer at your college fair, what to think about for your essay writing workshop, and making that college signing day a culmination event for some terrific programming that you've done throughout the year to bring in and celebrate your young people. If you're a student and you're thinking about how to be involved and engaged, similarly, I would want you to go to bettermakeroom.org and sign up. I'd want you to sign up for our texting campaign. We have the instructions online. Just go to bettermakeroom.org and click on Up Next, which is our texting tool. And then you'll really be connected to actually a real live person who are first generation students around the country who are helping mentor students and answer their questions at any time of day and night. And if your question's too complicated, you know, it's totally anonymous, but you can get a question not just from a first-gen student, but get your question answered also from a school counselor. We partner with the College Advising Corps and some other organizations like College Possible, who then, if there's a complicated question, you know, you're a dreamer, you're a DACA student, you're a homeless youth, and you're worried about how to fill out forms, and if a near-peer mentor can answer that question over text, we'll connect you with a real school counselor who can make sure you're going to get your question answered. So what we're discovering is that even for school districts that are starting to use texting as a way to interact with students, having the Up Next platform as a supplement really gives students the anonymity and just a safe space to answer these questions. I would also say, frankly, it's also meant to be fun. Like, you'll get a Michelle Obama dancing GIF, and you'll get these sort of fun, irreverent reminders too, and you'll feel like you're part of something special and something larger. And I think when I talk to students and counselors, I think that's one of the fun report backs, is that they appreciate giving their students access to something that doesn't require this huge amount of counselor oversight, but they know it's a high quality product they're getting, it's free, and then the student can feel like they're part of a larger mission and goal around the country.
I'm guessing Michelle Obama is probably one of the most gift persons out there in terms of on social media. Better Make Room is a good follow just to see what they're going to come out next with her. So I want to talk a lot about signing day specifically, but before we do, I have to ask the question. You know, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but how your life and the organization has changed since the Obamas left office. Can you just walk us through a bit? I mean, and are there any advantages or disadvantages to the transition that you've gone through?
Yeah, so, you know, again, a real big, huge learning experience to go from 8 years in the federal government to now basically moving into the startup nonprofit space. And in terms of I'll start with disadvantages and end on the positive note. So the disadvantage, right, is that we're no longer connected directly to the federal government in the sense of, you know, I was sitting at the White House and we had all of the White House's both bully pulpit assets, digital assets, and then, you know, I'm sitting in a meeting with Policy Council and the Department of Ed about how we're going to simplify FAFSA. And I know that when I'm putting something out, it's part of a real, it was sort of a multi-pronged approach. So it wasn't just me saying, hey, here's a fun thing of Michelle Obama saying, go to college. It was mixed with a lot of policy and other real magnitude changes and convening authority, frankly, that folks like Mrs. Obama had at the White House to bring college presidents, other big leaders together to try to make changes even when Congress wouldn't. So we've lost a lot of those big pieces of some of that big blocking that you would get from the federal government. That being said, I think some of the advantages of moving into the nonprofit space are there's a lot less regulation, right? I don't have to call White House counsel's office every time I want to send a tweet or create a partnership with a nonprofit or another organization. We can be a lot more nimble and fast. And I think also the lessons of the White House actually hold true outside of the White House, which is, you know, people want to lead and people want to be part of a movement. And I think we were privileged to start that at the White House, but it doesn't have to continue there. And I think that I've been really encouraged to the extent that nonprofit leaders, higher education leaders, college presidents, you name it, have come to me and said, you know, the work we started at the White House through things like the College Opportunity Summit or other work where we were making commitments to increase access and equity for first-gen students, they may not be getting those questions from the current administration, those current requests, but that doesn't mean that they can't lead or that we as a nonprofit can't continue to ask folks to go in that direction. So I will say that if there had been another Democratic office where I would have maybe felt less relevant because maybe Secretary Clinton would have called for free community college or you know, doubled Pell or done more on income-based repayment. Currently, this administration is, I think, offering what I'm worried about in terms of what sort of roadblocks they might be putting up for students to access higher ed, whether that's walking back some of the regulations for dangerous for-profits, whether that's walking back how easy it is to find data around higher ed performance, or some of the budgets they put forward that would decimate things like TRIO, Gear Up, and Pell. So far, Congress hasn't followed through with some of those requests, but nevertheless, it's a dangerous, it's a scary time for me as someone who cares about higher ed equity. So I think, therefore, I have that much more opportunity to try to bring and leverage the relationships we created out of the administration, because this higher ed community that cares about first gen equity and success, they know they need to go faster and further. And I've been at summits all spring. You meet leaders like Bridget Burns from the University Innovation Alliance. You meet leaders like Eloy Oakley, who leads the California Community College System. You meet leaders like Michael Crow from Arizona State University, a flagship university, and or folks like Dan Porterfield at Franklin and Marshall. All of those folks, different types of universities, community college, flagship, state, and private liberal arts. They are all making huge steps forward around access and equity for first-gen students, partly because of the work we started in the administration, and I'm encouraged that work is going to continue to go. So I feel like my role now as a nonprofit leader is to continue to really, create spaces where those leaders can stand up and say, I want to be part of this movement.
Yeah, it's amazing. I want to keep ringing that bell with the simplified FAFSA, though. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues, that obviously, I'm coming from a small campus, minority majority, very high income, very high needs student population. And we're running into major issues as it comes to FAFSA completion. We're coming into major issues in regards to federal verification and students simply not being able to get out of the federal verification process. One that, we were told we're going the prior year that was going to alleviate a lot of the need for federal verification, and that has certainly not been the case. If anything, it has maintained level, and I've heard stories of verification percentage increasing at many institutions across the country. So, just those barriers are something that we need to make sure organizations like yours are keeping, kind of front and center in Washington. So thank you for doing that good work. Now into the fun stuff. You have an amazing event coming up, your big National Signing Day celebration, College Signing Day celebration coming up on May 2nd in Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about what your last couple of weeks have been like leading up to the event, and tell us a little bit about the event itself. What's going to be happening?
Yeah. So again, so first of all, Adam, I just also want to thank you for continuing to shine a spotlight on issues like the FAFSA verification, the income-based retrieval issues that we've seen for the past couple of years. So thank you for what your leadership and making sure that folks around the country are getting the information they need to push back. But in terms of the fun stuff happening for the past few weeks, number one is I love College Signing Day season. Love the opportunity to see young people being celebrated around the country. So the idea that we're going to hit this year, break a record again, hopefully 2,000 events happening, is incredible to me. That to me tells me that, and I think we're undercounting, frankly. These are folks who signed up on our website and tell us about their event. We know this movement is growing. So then number two is, I'd say, we are in full event production mode, but we have great partners like the Philadelphia School District, leaders like Patience Learman, who actually have helped create a College Signing Day and had it for the past 3 years. They've done it at Penn, they've done it at the Wells Fargo Center. They've hosted these large events even without us, right? You don't need Michelle Obama to celebrate a great College Signing Day event. But because Mrs. Obama's there, one of her goals and themes has been to say, as I mentioned, we do want to celebrate going to college like we celebrate the Super Bowl. So she has asked for the past few years, and everyone answers, great and incredible celebrities who are willing to lend their voice to telling student stories and to say thank you to students and congratulate students. So we're going to have folks like Robert De Niro, Bradley Cooper, Zendaya, Camila Cabello, Ellie Kemper, Questlove. The list goes on and on of the incredible list of celebrities. That's actually, I believe, over 30 who've committed to come and celebrate with Mrs. Obama in Philly. And the goal here, right, isn't just to trot out these celebs for the sake of that, but really they're there to celebrate and say thank you to those students, to say what you've done to get through high school is incredible. The commitment you've made to continue your education is incredible. And that is something, in a time right now where people are cynical and there's a lot of things to be upset about in the news, I think it's great. And folks are hungry for something positive. And signing day is that moment. So getting to plan a 7,000 person rally in Philly with someone like Mrs. Obama and incredible celebrities and frankly incredible students, right? The Philadelphia School District is sending us some incredible young people who we want to tell their story. We want to lift them up, and those to be the stories you hear about of the student, why they became the valedictorian, why they're going to college, why they might be pursuing the military, or why they might be, getting a community college degree. I mean, these are incredible young people, and we are invested in them. And I think Philadelphia is showing what's possible. Philadelphia's had a great run. Athletics with the Eagles and Villanova and a lot of great things happening. The Sixers are having their run right now. But ultimately, all these celebrities and all these people who are invested in Philly know that education is the single best investment that the young people in that community can make. So I'm just really excited to be overwhelmed by the positivity of that event. But, this is going to be a big production, and we're excited to get it going. Adam, when will this, we're live right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're live right now. This
Awesome.
will be available on demand immediately thereafter.
Great. So for folks who are listening, I will tell you something exciting and new about this year. This year, we've only allowed students into the event. This year, for the first year ever, we are going to be letting some adults into the event as well. We have about 1,000 tickets available. You'll get a free tote bag if you buy those tickets. But if you go to Eventbrite and search for the Mrs. Obama's College Signing Day, you'll see the tote bag offer. You can get a ticket to the event. If you're in Philly, if you're in New York, if you're in DC, and you thought, gosh, I wish I could be there and see this incredible show, this is the first year that you can do that. So please go ahead and check it out. And we're really excited. Again, of course, all the students are going for free, but for some of our adult partners who've always wanted to see what does an event of this magnitude look like with Mrs. Obama, please go to Event Ticket.
That is very cool. It sounds like an amazing event. And I think a little more than half of the celebrities that you mentioned, which is actually better than I thought I was going to do. So I'm excited about that.
Well, I didn't even go into some of the social media people like Ninja and some other like Gen Z.
You're gonna lose me there, but I'll take your word for it. That they're big time. I know Mr. Obama can bring out the stars, and you guys have had an unbelievable guest list. From Hollywood and all different, entertainment walks of life over the last couple of years. So I have no doubt it's going to be huge. And you're right, Philadelphia is the center of the universe right now. Being a lifelong Eagles fan, I'm still glowing from our Super Bowl victory. So we know how, in Philadelphia knows how to throw a good party now. We've had a couple, the Eagles and Villanova, we've had practice. So now this will just be an extension of that, and it'll be a very nice party for you guys as well. One of the things that you said earlier, with your team, and you have about 6 people that you're working with, and this is a massive undertaking, not only the event, but just managing kind of the social media aspect of it. So tell me about, how does that happen? What goes on behind the scenes? When you said that, I was like, I thought it was a much larger organization, because obviously you guys are out there so much.
So it's fascinating. And I think I'll say we've got an incredible team that works here for us, but also we are a coalition building team as well. So there's 6 direct full-time staff who sit here with me on our team. But actually, I'm underselling in the sense that we have a lot of great partners who have become in-kind partners who do a lot of terrific work for us. So we have an amazing marketing, branding, design firm called the Black Sheep Agency. They're based out of Houston, Texas. They've been working with us for actually about 3 years. And they are the ones who help create these beautiful graphics and these beautiful campaigns and really help us do some of the creative work around social media. We have a group that is in Civic Nation called the Creative Alliance. And it's a team of about over, I think, 30 creative agencies that are basically in-kinding their work towards social justice campaigns. So when I need to get a great video team to record all these celebrities, at this event to get great PSAs about going to college, I can call the Creative Alliance and they're going to help create some incredible videos for us. We sit at Civic Nation, which, as I mentioned to you earlier, has about 7 different social justice campaigns that sit together. We have about 30 people. So I can lean on any of those other teams and ask them for help on social media, on digital, on press. So, while in reality, there's about a core group of about 6 people, if you added up the additional sort of, folks who are helping on this team, we're probably closer to like 15 15 to 20 staff who are actually contributing to an event like College Signing Day to make it possible. And again, I'm overwhelmed and grateful to those who are helping do this work. All those celebrities, I didn't even name half of them, are in-kinding their time completely for free. They are coming in, Nick Cannon's going to MC the event. They're just coming because they're passionate about this work, about supporting young people. We've got talent agencies who help us recruit some of these great celebs or help us do all the logistics. You can imagine how hard it is actually to get 30 celebs into one place and make sure that goes really smoothly. And we have a team that helps, again, does that for free for us. So we're really blessed to have incredible partners who are passionate about student success, passionate about storytelling. And so whether it's my team, whether it's the Black Sheep Agency, whether it's other partners at Civic Nation or the Creative Alliance, we've sort of built this coalition network so that we're bigger than just a couple people manning a Twitter account or a couple people doing events, or let alone, of course, we're still thrilled. Mrs. Obama's core office team as well offers tremendous support for anything she's doing. So we ultimately, it's like getting the band back together. We don't have the same level of staffing that you would have had for a White House event, but it's actually pretty incredible to see all these folks donate their time, their expertise, and their passion to make not just a great event like Philly happen, but a moment, right? This is a moment where thousands, hundreds of thousands of students around the country are celebrating their decisions to go to college, go to the military, go to a professional training program. And so I think people, as I mentioned, are hungry for something hopeful. And I'm always happy to be able to feed them with some good work on my team with some volunteer opportunities.
Well, I still feel lazy, but I feel a little bit better that you guys have that much covered. That's fantastic. So you mentioned, having a moment on May 2nd. So if I can't attend the event in Philly, where can I see this all kind of go down?
Yep. So you can watch on the Better Make Room Facebook page. So just find Better Make Room on Facebook. Again, Better Make Room is our digital facing campaign, Out of Reach Higher. If you go to the Better Make Room Facebook page, we'll be live streaming on the day of, and you'll be able to follow Mrs. Obama's event with all those incredible celebrities. The event time itself will be roughly about 11:15 to 1 p.m. And that'll be our portion of the show. There may be a little bit of a pre-show when students are coming in with some local Philadelphia speakers, but the main show will be about 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time on May 2nd. And again, you follow us on Facebook.
And I'll just assume that I'm going to be able to see you do a lip sync battle, knowing Nick Cannon is there. So I'll be watching just for that.
Hey, man. Anything's possible. I'll get ready.
Possible. Good.
Practicing.
So we can certainly go back to College Signing Day, but one of the reasons why I was excited to bring you on today is to talk a little bit more about Civic Nation, which I find is a fascinating organization that kind of has its hand in a lot of different social movements right now. So can you just give the listeners a background about Civic Nation and how kind of what you're doing with Reach Higher intertwines with what they have been doing as an organization?
Yeah, it's great. Well, again, we're so blessed to have been able to transition from the administration and find a home in a place like Civic Nation. So Civic Nation, the best way to think about it, it's a 501c3. It's sort of an umbrella C3 that hosts about 7 different social justice campaigns. And those campaigns work in areas around education, women's empowerment, anti-hate, etc. But all of them have what's in common about all of them is they're sort of, I would say, premier social justice organizing and amplification campaigns that are around grassroots and digital movement building. So I'll run through them quickly, just so you'll get a sense of the type of colleagues I get to work with every day. We have the College Promise campaign that Dr. Biden chairs and is led by Martha Cantor, who was the Undersecretary of Education in the Obama administration. That team is really focused on trying to build awareness and create more free community college campaigns around the country. Folks may be familiar with they're traditionally called Promise programs, College Promise, and they have started in states like Tennessee. They're now in actually dozens of states around the country where if you work hard, if you do right, you should be able to get at least 2 years of free community college and not have to go into debt to do that. So Dr. Cantor, Dr. Biden helped lead that work, and that's called America's College Promise. Obviously, I mentioned the work that we do with Mrs. Obama. for Reach Higher and Better Make Room. She's our board chair, and we're still doing that. Obviously, I shared a little bit about our work in this call. We have a campaign called the United State of Women, and that campaign really works on women's empowerment issues around healthcare, politics, social justice, education, trying to make sure that we're building off the enthusiasm of the groundswell of support for equity for women around the country. And folks like Valerie Jarrett and Tina Chen, who are leaders in the Obama White House, are still readily involved. We also have the It's On Us campaign. That's a campaign that Joe Biden started during his time at the White House that's really focused on ending sexual assault on college campuses, especially with respect to trying to get peers to hold each other responsible, sort of saying that also men on campuses and others to say that it's on all of us to make sure that we're standing up and changing the culture that has led to too much sexual violence on college campuses around the country. There are a few, some of those I mentioned obviously have roots and legacies into things that began during the Obama administration, but many of our initiatives at the Civic Nation do not. So we have a campaign called the All-In Democracy Challenge, which works with over 300 college campuses around the country who are committed to try to get students civically engaged and make sure that they're voting and being really engaged citizens around the country. They use some prizes and other models to really get colleges engaged to help create a more active citizenry. We recently became the nonprofit partner for NBC's new Erase the Hate campaign, which is focused on ending intolerance and hate around the country. It's certainly something that we need to spend more time thinking about. And I think I mentioned to you, it's not officially a campaign in the sense that it's not an issue-oriented campaign, but we do have something called the Creative Alliance, which sits here at Civic Nation, and it's a consortium of, I think I mentioned, over about 30 or so branding, marketing, communications, and design firms that have all volunteered to say, we want to help around the social justice issues that Civic Nation cares about. So whether it's creating a video encouraging young people to go to college, or a video thinking about, healthcare and women's rights to birth control, we have incredible firms that can help us get the creative done. So write the script, film that script, get talent involved, and create a moment that's suddenly be viral on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your Twitter, on your Snap. And they really help us understand and create beautifully designed campaigns that are hopefully leading towards social justice outcomes and change. So all those campaigns, sit together. We each have our own staff, our own board, and really our own funding. So we are each of those campaigns has to do their own fundraising. But by sitting together, I think we try to be more than the sum of our parts, and I think learn from what's working well and any of the issues that we're working towards, and also share some resources, whether it's around the tools that are working, the campaigns that are most effective, or how to do the sort of outreach we need that's going to help young people live the lives that they want to live. Wow.
I'm glad we were able to discuss it, because I mean, a lot of that I certainly didn't know. There's a lot going on, and I think it's very cool that you guys are all under kind of one umbrella and are able to work together. But obviously, you have separate initiatives and agendas in terms of the outreach that you're trying to do. So, man, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the future holds for you. I mean, obviously, you've gone through a bit of transition. You've become extremely well known in the higher ed. I can speak to the higher ed side, and for your work at Reach Higher. And so where do you see Reach Higher going from here, and where do you see yourself going, over the next couple of years?
Well, that's a great question, Adam. I would say, the good news about this work and what I feel really great about is that I think we're making progress, right? We're seeing increases in the national trends around low-income students and students of color entering college. I think, obviously, we still have a ton more work to do to get those completion numbers where we want to be. I think a generation ago, the debate in education was, could we get poor students and students of color to graduate from high school? And then we answered that question with yes. And then the question was, well, can we get them into college? And now we've answered that question yes. And we're currently having the part of the debate about whether or not we can get them to complete at the same rate as their high income peers. I'm going to go out on the limb and say we're going to get to yes on that. And I would bet that the way this conversation will continue is then, well, are they getting the jobs that they need? And once we solve that, we'll get to the question of, well, are they having meaningful jobs and meaningful lives? So, I see myself as staying in this space for the long run. I want to help continue to make sure Reach Higher can grow both in terms of its impact, I think have the stability it needs to do that. And really, I think we need to take moments like signing day and texting, but we need to be doing so much more to really reach students where they are. So I think I want to make sure that we're continuing to build our coalitions of the higher ed and K-12 world. And actually, it always bums me out when I talk to organizations that, they've got a higher ed person and a K-12 person, and those people usually don't talk to one another. And I feel like I sit on that divide, and I see so much more work that we have to do to bridge that divide. So I'm hopeful that Reach Higher can continue to be a leader in the field to make sure that we're calling on institutions to bridge that divide and help more kids get to and through. And then I think personally, as long as I can keep my shoulder to the grindstone, to the wheel, and sort of do my little part to push things forward to help push those numbers up, I'll feel good. Whether it's here, there, everywhere, we need more people thinking about how to make sure more kids are getting the equity they deserve.
And the work that you're doing is definitely having an impact, because a couple years back we weren't having these types of discussions. And I can speak from experiences. I work pretty closely with initiative in Newark, New Jersey, which is called the Newark City of Learning Collaborative, which has a goal of getting 25% of the Newark population to have higher ed certificates or associate's or bachelor's degrees by the year 2025. And that wasn't even on the map until kind of the Reach Higher and Better Make Room campaigns really started to gain momentum. So I think even from a local area, I could see people talking about this more, and it's getting out there. So the work you're doing is incredibly important. So from your perspective, do you have one, two, or three just maybe micro issues that you really want to tackle in terms of college access? And what do you think, now that you've certainly made some progress, but what are the stumbling blocks right now that you think need to be addressed?
Yeah, so I would say that I think all too often in this space, we've sort of called it success when we drop these students off to college, or we say they got into school, they got into a great school, wherever, assuming we overcome the summer melt piece. We drop them off and we sort of say, congratulations, everybody. And I think that in reality, all of us, whether we're in K-12, higher ed, or in the bridge space, I think we need to figure out really what is the long-term coaching and support mechanisms that we're creating through those relationships that we spent so much time building in the K-12 side to help support those students in the higher ed and career side. Because all too often, these students arrive in college, they don't have the support network that they had in K-12, and they don't know how to navigate the institutions. And so the smallest things that we might consider a small hurdle become a stumbling block that totally derails the situation. So, studies indicate that it's actually $500 or less is usually what is keeping us, what leads to a student to drop out. So that could have been, book fees, unplanned costs, an accident, your car breaks down, your mom had to have surgery, you had to go home. These things that are unplanned but are all part of life. We essentially give our first-gen low-income students zero wiggle room whatsoever. And I think we need to spend much more time both building up the support systems that can help them navigate that. So actually having a true, almost like whether it's case model or something else, who's going to help really take care of that student, is in charge of helping that student succeed, as opposed to that student having to figure it out on their own. So that's number one. Number two, there's obviously the financial piece of that, which is to say that we can't just think about scholarship dollars as that first gating mechanism around tuition. I think we have to think about all of those sort of lesser known costs associated with college, and how to fix these last dollar or midstream dollar concerns that are happening for young people, so that if they suddenly need the extra $50, $100, $200 to take care of an issue, that's not keeping them from actually being able to complete school. There was a great article recently talking about how many students, actually it's I think between 15 and 1/3 of college students, who actually are food insecure. And we don't think about these things, as a student debating, do I want my course books or do I want to have a meal? I mean, that's crazy. And again, I think without trying to cast aspersions, either it's benign neglect or folks know and have just not had the courage to do something about it. But we need to help make sure that there are the basic things for young people to be successful. They need food, they need care, they need housing, they need a supportive environment, and they need to have a system that's tracking them and their data so that we aren't just watching them fail, but that we're intervening in real time and helping them be successful where they are. So I think we're seeing some examples of universities that are using predictive analytics, that actually are using case models that are providing these services. By way of example, and this is I think on the highest end of need, there was a article in the Washington Post talking about essentially a program for homeless women who have had children who do not have a post-secondary degree, and they have an 86% college graduation rate. They get these women to complete high school, they get them into college. Yeah, 86%. And these are women who've had traumatic experiences, who are effectively homeless. They use Section 8 housing. They give them the food they need. They give them the counselors and the support they need, and they're getting a terminal degree. And we need to think about what are we doing to make sure that success is the goal and not entry. And I think that's still where all the golden, the pot at the end of the rainbow is all about us helping these students complete and get the job and the life that they want. And I'm positive we can do so much more.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really encouraged about that I've seen in recent years, and I'm sure this is all connected, is that the secondary schools are becoming much more involved with their students after they leave and they go on to a college or university to try to promote, obviously, their persistence and ultimately graduation, and really taking it upon themselves. And a couple of years ago, I mean, that was much more of a charter school initiative or a private institution initiative. And, KIPP, I know, is very good at it, is a group that we work with. But now I'm hearing it much more from the public schools. And the public high schools that want to invest in making sure that their students not only get through the first year and get to a campus, like you said, but get through the first year and ultimately are on their way toward graduation. And that is a huge undertaking, particularly from a public school district that has very little by way of extra funds to kind of create new programs. But I think that's the right way to approach it. That's how you have to look at it. There has to be this collaborative kind of relationship between the college and the high school to try to get those students through, particularly those that are maybe not academically 100% ready for school. Maybe their socioeconomic status is going to really put up some roadblocks for them. And I think we can definitely make some real headway there if that's done correctly. So that's really exciting. Eric, we're running out of time. But as always, man, thanks so much for jumping on and really talking about what you do, which is so important, but also, the celebration that you guys have every year. And I think, people in my field, and I know students and school counselors have really started to look forward to seeing that information coming out about College Signing Day and seeing what Ms. Obama has up her sleeve for the big event. So I think, it's kind of one of those things that, has built so much momentum, and now it's almost become a fixture, in our lives. And I think that's a testament to the work that you and your team have done over the last couple of years. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Adam, and thanks for all the work you're doing, and for all your listeners out there. Whether you're at a rally or an event or you're on your own, May 2nd, May 1st, put on your college shirt or take a picture, post it with hashtag College Signing Day, hashtag Better Make Room. Go to bettermakeroom.org and learn more. We want you to be a part of a movement. You don't have to be a high school senior to be a part of this. We want to show people that college helped us get to where we are today, and your education can help so many other people to do the same.
Awesome. And let everybody know how they can reach you on social media.
Great. So you can follow us online. You can follow @ReachHigher on Twitter at @ReachHigher. You can follow Reach Higher on Instagram at @ReachHigher2020. You can follow Better Make Room at Better Make Room on Twitter and Better Make Room on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook for both those accounts, Reach Higher and Better Make Room, and go to bettermakeroom.org to download your College Signing Day kit to sign up for your event. And if you're still trying to find that last $500 to host your event, it's not too late to apply. We want to give out that money. So please go online, sign up, learn how you can be involved. And you can follow me on Twitter at EW Waldo. I try to be super responsive. So tweet at me, post, and we'll be in touch. But I'm grateful for your support and for all that all your followers are doing to try to help make sure that higher education is on everyone's mind.
Well, I hope, Eric, that we can meet this time next year to talk a little bit about what we're going to do in 2019. But best of luck in your event. I know it'll be fantastic, and we look forward to following along live on the Better Make Room Facebook page. Everybody out there, I want to thank our sponsor, M. Stoner. As always, they make us go. Until next month, this is Adam Castro for Admissions Live. Take care.